Hi guys, welcome back. I'm Kurt, I'm here at Al's Sporting Goods. We're at the Vise today. We're doing the Caddis Life Cycle series of flies. If you missed our Life Cycle series on the Mayfly, check out the links below. So the Caddis fly has a complete life cycle, complete metamorphosis, meaning it has a larval stage, a pupal stage, and an adult stage. Today we're going to be tying 3 flies that mimic each of these life cycle stages of the caddisfly. All right, we're gonna tie Caddis Pupa pattern next. This is, again, kind of a mishmash of a few patterns that exist and are available out there. Not that this is any better. There's really great patterns out there, and credit to those tyers that come up with them and put them together. This one does take cues from the Nitro Caddis, which is a pattern put out by Umpqua. Great pattern. I did find with that pattern I needed to tone down the sparkle and the flash on that for fish to really get into it. It felt a little too flashy and I felt like I was getting refusals. So this one is kind of like a muted down version of that. Some similarities you'll see. For hook, I've got in here, this is a TMCO 2488H. Again, this is a heavy wire hook with a straight eye, nice caddisy or scud-like curve to it. Really like this hook. This is in a size 12, just so the camera can pick it up really well. I am doing this one with a bead. You can do this without a bead as well, depending on how you want to fish it. This is just a 2.4 millimeter tungsten bead, and this is in like a gunmetal color. I also do these in like a copper or a brown color. I find fish will sometimes key in on more with a different color bead, but this is a gunmetal color for this pattern. For thread, I'm using Semperfli. This is 30 denier nano silk in kind of this copper brown color that they do. It's quickly becoming one of my favorite threads. It's just so versatile, so strong, and really lays down thin. You don't have to worry about a lot of bulk coming from this. So we'll get into it. So I've got that bead mounted on the hook and the hook mounted in the vise. I'm just going to start thread right behind that bead, and just going to take thread down through the body, down through the bend of the hook, and kind of want that to be, again, accentuating kind of the curvature of that hook. When you're cutting this nano thread, this nano silk, I've shared this example before, but just kind of split your scissor and just kind of pop it through. Let the razor scissor do the cutting. If you try and slice it, it will just foul and it won't cut through it because that thread is so strong. Okay, the other fly that this pattern takes some cues from is the great Gary LaFontaine and his Sparkle Caddis Pupa. Gary LaFontaine, I never met him, but owned several of his publications and books, and the guy was a scientist, and the way that he spent time underwater in scuba gear and snorkels and viewing these insects underwater, I think we owe an awful lot to him about what we know and how we fish, particularly caddis. So with that Sparkle Pupa, he has that kind of bubble casing over the fly, and we're gonna sort of mimic some of that here today. I'm gonna use, this is just some UV ice dub from Hairline, and I'm using this light olive color, and I've just taken out a little pinch of this. This is maybe too much. I'm probably gonna thin that out, but I'm taking out a pinch of this, and I'm just gonna sort of card this together. This is called carding, when you kind of pull the fibers out and line them up so that they're roughly about the same length together. And you lose some while you do this, that's great. And once I've carded it, I'm gonna sort of roll it together in my fingers, kind of like a little pinch. It's almost like a little tuft of yarn now. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tie this in right at that midpoint here, almost like a bow tie on the tail of this. This is gonna be my shuck that I pull over the rest of the body. So I'll show you how I do this, but I kind of twist it together, and I put a wrap over the middle of it, and then we do the same thing, kind of like you would do with a spinner wing. If you watched our Mayfly spinner in the Mayfly Life Cycle series, you'll see the same technique. So I've got that little tuft of sparkly UV on the back, just kind of split roughly in half and just secured in. So next what we're going to do is we're going to bring our thread forward. And my next material is, this is just a little polypropylene yarn. This is done by Semperfli. This is a color called Chartreuse. It just is a real caddisy green. You can change the colors of this, whatever color your caddis are that you're trying to mimic. Some of them are more cream colored, some are more tan colored, more olive. Just look at what your naturals look like and try to mimic that. So I've got a little piece of this cut off, and I want to thin this out. This is just a little bit too thick for me, so I want to take about 1/3 of this away if I can do it without, these fibers are all kind of twisted together, so sometimes it gets kind of jumbled, but I'm going to try to take about 1/3 of that away. There we go, that'll work. So I've got about a 2/3 of that little chunk of yarn off the card pulled out here, and I'm just kind of twisting it and printing it so I can get all these little loose ends. Try to as many of these as I can kind of worked out. Okay, so that's about the thickness that I want right there. And this is, you could do this with dubbing as well. You could do this with any other kind of yarn. I just like this. I'm gonna even up this tip end so that it's just ready to tie in right there. And I'm just gonna tie this in. Again, I kind of put a little saliva on that, kind of twist that together so those fibers maybe stay. And just with a little pinch wrap, I'm gonna pinch it in and tie it in right up here behind that bead. I'm just gonna snug that back, and as I pull it back, I'm putting in a few more thread wraps. I'm gonna take that down the top of the shank and just trying to keep those fibers all together and bring that back down to where we tied in that little veil that's hanging off the back here. Keep this all out of the way so you're not snagging materials. Get that right back to that veil. Okay, and then advance your thread back to the front. All right, so without engaging this veil that's hanging off the back, I've got the yarn, I've kind of pulled it upwards, and I'm just gonna put a twist. Doesn't really matter which direction you twist it, just stay consistent with that. I'm trying to twist this up and kind of cord it up almost like a yarn or a rope, right? So I'm gonna make a turn around this and making sure I'm twisting the same way as I did to begin with. I'm gonna just keep twisting as I wrap it. And that just keeps that really corded up. It almost creates like a segmented look to this caddis body down here in its abdomen. So twisting, got a little errant fiber there, that's not gonna matter, that's just fine. Twisting and wrapping as you go. And you know, what you'll see here is it's a really good looking, it's like this kind of bright apple green almost. As these hydropsyche caddis start to pupate, they move to kind of a brighter color, brighter shade of green than they were when they were that larva. And so this is a little bit brighter than what that larva was that we tied previously. I'm just gonna cut that little fiber out of there that I am bugged by. Okay, so you got a clean little caddisy looking body, kind of curving down the shank. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this veil, this little bow tie that I tied in, and I'm just gonna sort of envelop this around the hook shank. I want this to be, again, we're kind of mimicking what that sparkle yarn is that LaFontaine advocated for, and we're gonna put that around almost like a little bubble, because as these caddis emerge, they create a little gaseous air bubble that helps them to emerge and rise through the water column. So we're gonna just kind of bring that up with a little pinch wrap and just secure that little dubbing blob around that. And then I just take these excess fibers and I just pinch them back because I like the shaggy look. I want it to look shaggy and buggy. And then I'm just kind of using my fingers and maybe a little bit of scissor work to get this kind of trimmed. That's what I'm looking for, about right there. Just kind of a real shaggy, buggy little bubble around this thing, kind of little halo. And when this is in the water, it kind of undulates and moves and creates some of that movement that I think these fish key in on. So I'm gonna bring this thread back a little bit, give us a little bit more working room now that we've got everything for our body and kind of our abdomen tight in, we're gonna start putting in wings and legs and antenna. So first I like to put in the wing pads, and these wing pads I'm doing, you can use a lot of materials for this. I'm just using, this is just some sow Scud back. It's just this kind of latex material, kind of stretchy. Rainey's makes it, it's called Stretch Flex with them. Anyways, I like this because it's the color I want. It's kind of this brown color, and it's kind of transparent. It's also pretty durable. So I've got a little chunk of this trimmed out. This is maybe an inch or so, just trimmed out. This is gonna be oodles for this one fly, but I'm just gonna lay it on one side and offer it in. I want these wing pads to kind of hang down off the bottom of the fly. So I've got one in on the side nearest me, and I'm gonna fold this over and create the other one as I wrap, and it just kind of wraps with my thread wraps over the top. Okay, so I'm just gonna sort of view those and make sure I've got those in the right position that I want them in. And then I'm gonna trim these, and I'm gonna seek to trim these just so that there's no real magic length. I just like these to be short enough. They look realistic, but long enough that you can see them because I spent the time putting them in. So I'm just gonna trim these up. There's one. And I trim these with kind of like a little, just kind of a little downward angle, and then I just kind of nip the corner off. Like so. So there's my wing buds. That's how I like to do them. Next, I'm gonna put a little blob of dubbing right there. For this fly, I use this. This is the Nature Spirit Caddis Emerger Nymph dubbing, and it's just a box I've got a bunch of colors in. This is a color called Pheasant Tail, and I'm just gonna put a little bit of Pheasant Tail right here with that. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna create a little ball of dubbing, and I want that ball to be present to kind of prop the legs out and to give me just the beginnings of my thorax here and leading into the head. So just a little ball of dubbing there. Save the rest of that for the last part of this. Next thing I'm gonna do my legs, and this is just a hen saddle. Just a speckly brown looking feather. You could use partridge, you can use, any just kind of speckly brownish color that you like. So I take a feather off that neck, and what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna split out the stem from the tip here. So I'm just gonna take the tip of that feather and separate out, and I'm gonna split that tip, separate that off. So what I'm left with is kind of a V-notch in the feather, and I'm gonna use that V-notch to lay over the top and create these legs that kind of hang down and kind of envelop this. Similar to a soft hackle. You could soft hackle wrap this if you wanted. I like this to be just a little bit more kind of concise, so I don't do the soft hackle, but you could. Soft hackles are great, and they create a lot of movement and a lot of interest from the fish, so I like that style too. I've got that section, I don't know how many fibers that is per side, but maybe 8 to 10 fibers, and I'm just gonna lay that over the top, just like this, and kind of just wrap over, capture with my thread, wrap over, capture that bunch of fibers, and we're gonna just ensure that we have that secured down, kind of like that. And again, I want those legs to just like that, just kind of pop out and down, kind of hanging out that way. That's the profile I want from this. And I'm gonna take this remaining tip. You can save that. You can tie another couple of caddis off of maybe one more off of what's left there. You could do another caddis out of that. So be frugal with your materials. Okay. Lastly, I'm gonna put a couple of antennae off this just for show. I think this makes them look good in the box. I don't think fish care about antennae on flies, but I think fishermen like them, and I think they look good. So I've got just a little package of lemon barred wood duck feathers, and I'm gonna take one of these, and I'm just gonna take out a couple fibers of these lemon barred wood duck. These are some of my favorite feathers to tie with. They're just so beautiful. So we're gonna take just 2 of those and I'm gonna lay those off the top, and I want those antennae just to extend back off the body there, maybe a half of a hook shank off of the back of the body. I'm just gonna offer those up and nab those on there. So we've got 2 antennae. I will trim these butt ends, and then lastly, we're just gonna make a little shaggy head with the rest of that pheasant tail colored CEN dubbing from Nature's Spirit. So same way, just a little sparse dubbing on that thread. A little bit goes a long way. I don't like these to be too bulky looking in the head. I think you can over bulk them. I think if you just keep it kind of simple and slender, it works well. So you're just gonna take that on and put together your head here. And then right behind the bead is where I'm gonna end up. And with a little whip finish, we'll whip finish right behind that. Again, super imitative fly. This imitates that pupil stage really well. Gives you a lot of movement. Again, the things I think that fish look for are size. So you want to vary your size based on your naturals. They look for profile and silhouette in the water. They look for color. I think they look for movement too. And this one has all those things. This is a great pattern that you can put in your box to help imitate those caddis pupa. It's one of the life stages of the caddis that can bring you success as an angler. Make sure to stop by your local Owls for all your fishing and fly tying needs, or visit owls.com online. Make sure to like and subscribe for more fly tying, fly fishing content. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.